Today we're going to be concluding our series on one of the most important books that's been written over the last 25 years. The Firm Foundation video series helps leaders of wealth management firms lead and grow their companies more effectively. The book that I'm referring to is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And with the final habit, the 7th habit, we're going to be talking about the principles of sharpening the saw, and specifically the principles of balanced renewal. We're joined again today by Emily Vecchi, and Emily and I are going to be discussing this chapter together.
All right, Blaine, how do you sharpen the saw?
Well, I'm going to share a story that's both personal and business. My wife and I, about 10 years ago, decided that we wanted to be more intentional with each year. And so Shalom and I fly to Orlando every first week of January, and we take each half day a topic of our lives. And so if it's business, we talk about what happened in the last year, what we liked, what we would want to change, what we want to do differently. And we reflect on how we can get better in that area of our life. We do that for our finances, for our family, for our marriage, etc. That's been a really powerful way for us to start the year and recognize and build in this concept of sharpening the saw for us. That's helped us both in our day-to-day lives and also with each of us running our own business.
Blaine, what are the 4 areas of renewal that Dr. Covey writes about?
Yes, in this chapter, he talks about physical renewal, which could be exemplified by fitness and diet. He talks about emotional renewal or sharpening the saw, which could be serving in your community or serving someone in need, and also developing your empathy skills. He talks about the spiritual aspects of renewal or sharpening the saw, which could involve developing or becoming clear on your inner values, prayer. He also talks about mental sharpening of the saw, which could be reading, thinking, planning. Those are all examples.
What are examples of sharpening the saw that can benefit wealth advisors?
Something that we have found is under talked about in the industry is advisors learning from other sectors. So a great example is we think that wealth advisors, in order to create an exceptional experience, can learn from the hospitality industry. So a company like the Four Seasons can teach an advisor a lot about interacting with people. That's a really good example, along with examples of doing strategic planning and finding ways to work on the business, not just in the business.
What are some reasons that many advisors struggle to do this?
If you have just a reactive mindset where you're reacting to problems, you're reacting to this, you're reacting to that, a reactionary mindset is inconclusive and incompatible to a mindset of sharpening the saw because of the intentionality that's required. So that's one thing that does that. Another dimension of that is just being driven by the urgent, what we call the tyranny of the urgent. If you're always driven by that, your time's going to be full and you're not going to have the capacity to do it. And then lastly, if you don't intentionally set blocks in your calendar to read, to study, to reflect, you're just not going to do it. We believe that what doesn't get planned, what doesn't get scheduled is unlikely to happen.
What are some powerful results of putting this into practice consistently?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have found that advisors that do this, and from our own experience, tend to be more confident. They tend to be more competent because they've invested in their skill set and they have the ability to function at a higher level. They have learned how to differentiate themselves in their firm because of what they've learned and how they've grown their skills. And they tend to be just more effective in their role overall. We trust that our review, not just of the 7th habit, sharpening your saw, but of this book, will be helpful to you and your team as you look to achieve better results and as you look to benefit from the writings of Dr. Stephen Covey.
How do you sharpen your saw? Put your responses in the comment section of this post.
Firm Foundations is brought to you in part by our friends at SmartRIA, where they help financial advisors simplify their compliance.